It was a Wednesday this past spring when my neighbor's boy, Tyler, home from his second year of college, set his grocery bag down next to mine on my kitchen table. He'd stopped to help me carry mine in, and when he saw my receipt sitting there, he picked it up the way young people pick up something they don't quite believe is real. $9.60. That was my week. His own bag, one bag, had cost him $41, and he told me, a little embarrassed, that he'd already run out of money for food twice that month. Same store, same town, same week, same prices ringing up at the same register. He stood in my kitchen and asked me how in the world an old man feeds himself for less than he'd just spent on one sad bag of groceries. So I sat him down and I told him what I'm about to tell you. And I need you to stay with me to the end, because the last part is the part nobody teaches anymore, and it's the part that matters most. I'm 88 years old. I grew up dirt poor in Harlan County, Kentucky, in the tail end of the Depression, and I have fed myself on about $10 a week for my entire life. Not because I have to anymore, because I learned how. And once you learn how, you never forget, and you never again let anybody charge you 4 times over for something you can do yourself. Now, here is the first thing you have to understand, and it's the thing Tyler didn't know. The grocery store does not sell you food. It sells you convenience. The box, the bag, the thing already cooked, already seasoned, already ruined. You're not paying for supper. You're paying for somebody else to have made it. And nobody in that building makes a dime when you walk past all of it and buy a sack of dried beans instead. My mother Nell understood that in her bones. She fed 6 of us through winters when my father was laid off more weeks than he worked, and I never once sat down to an empty plate. She didn't have money, and she didn't have recipes. She had a system. And the first rule of that system was simple. You buy fuel, not meals. Fuel, dried beans. A bag of Pintos runs me $1.50, and that one bag is 7 suppers. Rice. A big sack lasts most of a month for a couple of dollars, and beans and rice together make a whole protein. Your body does not know it's cheap. It only knows it's fed. Oats for your mornings, pennies a bowl, potatoes by the 10-pound sack, a dozen eggs, the cheapest honest protein the Lord ever made, and a bag of plain flour, which in my mother's hands became biscuits, cornbread, dumplings, and gravy. Added up. That is your whole week, and you have not yet spent your $10. Now, most folks hear that, and they think it sounds like hardship. It is not hardship. Let me tell you about the pot. 3 nights a week, my mother put on a pot of soup beans. Pintos soaked overnight, simmered slow all day with an onion and a little scrap of salt pork, and a skillet of cornbread to go with it. That is the richest, most filling supper a poor man ever ate, and it cost her almost nothing. My grandmother, who raised her children in a coal camp with a dirt floor, used to say that a pot of beans on the stove meant nobody in that house was going to bed afraid. She said you could smell whether a family was going to make it. I have never forgotten that. A warm pot changes a house. And here is the part I told Tyler to lean in for. The waste. Because buying cheap is only half the system. The other half is that nothing, and I mean nothing, leaves my kitchen as garbage. When I roast a chicken, and I buy it whole, never in pieces, because whole is the cheapest meat in the store, that one bird feeds me 4 separate ways. The meat, the first night. The scraps stirred into beans the second. And then the carcass. The bones most people scrape straight into the trash goes into a pot of water with an onion and every vegetable end I've saved in a bag in the icebox, and it simmers all day into a broth that costs me not 1 cent and warms me like medicine. I keep a coffee can of bacon grease by the stove, same as my grandmother did. Every bit of fat from every meal goes into it, and it fries my potatoes and seasons my beans and greases my pans. That can has never once run empty in 50 years. The heel of the bread, the last spoon in the jar, the tops of the carrots, none of it hits my trash. What I can't eat feeds the little garden out back, and the garden feeds me right back. A few tomato plants, a row of beans, some greens. $1 in seed gives you a summer of food. My mother's garden was the difference between lean and hungry. Mine still is. Now, I promised Tyler the honest version, so here it is for you, too. This takes work. It takes an afternoon with a pot on the stove instead of a bag in the microwave. And that is exactly why almost nobody does it anymore. Easy has a price, and the price is everything. Easy is why a young man with a good future runs out of grocery money twice in 1 month. Easy is why folks who earn good wages have nothing to show for it. The habits that feel too small to matter are the very ones that decide your whole life. And I'll tell you the thing I told him last, the thing I said I'd save for the end. Learning to feed myself on almost nothing did not just save me money. It made me free. A man who can eat like a king on $10 a week can never be starved out and can never be cornered. When a business partner cheated me out of near everything I'd saved back in 1974, I did not panic. I drove home, put a pot of beans on the stove, and I knew, with a clear head, that I was going to be all right. I had been broke before. I knew how to live on little. That is a kind of armor they cannot take off of you. Tyler carried my $9 receipt around in his pocket for a week, called me later and told me he'd bought a bag of beans, a sack of rice, and a dozen eggs, and cooked his first real pot of anything in his life. Said it fed him 4 days. Said he felt, for the first time since he left home, like he had his feet under him. That is the whole thing right there. You see, they would rather you never learned any of this. A man who knows how to feed himself is a man they cannot sell very much to. But we share what we know. We teach each other. And every trick that gets passed along is one more thing they can never charge us for. Next time, I'll show you how I heat this same house all winter for under $9 a month. Same idea, just pointed the other direction. Your grandmother knew all of this, every bit of it. Now you know it too. Before you go, do one thing for me. Drop a comment and tell me 2 things. What state you're sitting in and what your grocery bill usually runs you in a week. I read every single one of them. Take care of yourselves. And don't you ever let anybody tell you that being able to live on little is anything but a gift.